Welcome back to Philosophy and Ethics in Games, the series where I break down the stories in some of our favorite games and ask the tough questions to figure out what is right and what is wrong. I'm Josh Bearheart Hawk, and today we're driving down a crooked road in a crooked car, looking for a crooked man in Telltale Games' The Wolf Among Us Episode 4. In case you missed any of the previous episodes in the Philosophy and Ethics series, I've linked a playlist in the description below. As I continue to break down this and other games, I'll add new videos to the playlist so you can find them all in one place. After a run-in with Bloody Mary, Bigby finds himself in a tattered state. He's got a broken arm and pieces of a silver bullet lodged in several of his organs. Thankfully, he also has Doctor Swinehart, who's apparently
a most skillful surgeon,
and winds up stitching him up, mostly as good as new. Once Bigby is back on his feet, Snow suggests that they need to start running the business office by the book, following the rules and actually enforcing the laws that they have set up. I can get behind that for the most part, but I'm not a fan of her plan for Colin and the other unglamoured fables. That's something that we haven't really talked too much about, but since Snow brought it up, I don't like the system they have for glamours. They make this rule that everyone has to look human. Then they strongly suggest that all fables need to get their glamours from the business office approved witches on the 13th floor, while making the cost of getting glamoured prohibitive. They've created a problem and are selling the solution, and it just isn't right. If you want to make sure everyone is glamoured and eliminate the black market for glamours that could potentially be dangerous, you can't make the cost above what the poorest fables can afford. It's one of those things that should be covered by some kind of tax or donations because it concerns the safety of all fables. Snow insists that Colin and the other unglamoured fables need to be sent to the farm, which I'm picturing as old MacDonald's farm from the popular children's song, and I can't get behind doing that. Locking a group of individuals up because they don't look or act the way they are supposed to is just plain wrong. Colin, Mr. Toad, and even Buffkin all fall into this category, and they aren't hurting anyone by not getting a glamour. I lie to Snow and pretend to be supportive of her plans simply because she needs someone in her corner. But when she leaves, I reassure Colin that she'll eventually come around. I really think that in the moment, Snow is just frustrated, and she's actually realizing for the first time that the business office hasn't been living up to its goal of taking care of the fables. From wanting to burn Auntie Greenleaf's tree to insisting that Colin be sent to the farm, she's making decisions that she might not make if she took the time to really evaluate things, and all I can do is try to mitigate any disasters that she might inadvertently cause the best that I can. Bigby winds up heading down to his office to meet Nerissa, one of the girls from the Pudding and Pie, who seems to have something that she wants to tell him. She can't openly speak, thanks to the spell Georgie has on her, and it takes some extra work to figure out what she's trying to share. She seems to be hinting that her, Faith, and Lily were all involved in something, though it isn't entirely clear what that is or was. It also seems like she's trying to tell us that someone we trust might not be on our side, and I can't help but wonder who we might need to take a closer look at. My first guess on who might be a traitor would be Snow, as she seems to be the most obvious person from a narrative standpoint. She's been our closest confidant, and she was the object of Crane's obsession, so it just seems like she would be the most likely person to be a turncoat. Colin would be my next guess, as he just seems like the type, though I really like him and I hope he's truly on our side. Someone like Buffkin or Mr. Toad would make a good spy for the Crooked Man as well, as they don't seem too obvious at first, though Mr. Toad doesn't like Bigby too well, especially after we slapped him and scared his little boy. Either of them could be secretly against us, and that possibility opens up a couple of other dangers. For one, Nerissa could be in our office on the orders of the Crooked Man, sent to throw us off and make us suspicious of everyone we know. It could also be that I'm overthinking it, which is one of the biggest hurdles that we face with mysteries like this. With the Crooked Man, we find that he has his claws in the most unexpected of places, meaning that everywhere we look could potentially be someplace he's spreading his influence. When anyone could be secretly working for him, paranoia sets in and it becomes way too easy to overthink every lead and suspect. We have to be careful with how we approach the investigation because of that. One thing we do get a pretty good idea of is that the secret to the girls' enslavement seems to lie in the ribbons that they wear around their necks. And based on Nerissa's reaction when we get too close to the ribbon, it's clear that something bad will happen if we remove it. Before we can get too much out of her though, Snow interrupts us to let us know that Beauty and Beast called to ask Bigby to come to their apartment. And Nerissa seems to suggest that going up there would be helpful in solving the mystery. I've been trying to avoid the embattled couple as much as possible this whole time, but now it seems that we don't have much of a choice. Adding a marriage counselor hat to go with my sheriff's badge, I head up to see them, listening in on the very loud conversation that they are having before knocking on the door. Beast doesn't seem too happy to see Bigby, but it turns out that that's because Beauty is the one who called. They've gotten themselves into a bit of a pickle, and now they want Bigby to make everything right. It turns out that while Beauty was working the night shift and taking loans from the Crooked Man to help fund their lavish lifestyle, Beast was working as a delivery boy for the villain. Neither of them knew what the other was up to until Beast caught Beauty going into the hotel room with Bigby, and now they're in over their heads. Now, as someone who's been married for nearly 2 decades, I can say that the biggest problem these two seem to be having is a lack of communication. They've been keeping secrets and sneaking around behind each other's backs, not to have affairs, but to make extra money because they never seem to have enough. Money is a problem in a lot of relationships, and it seems that fables are no exception to that rule. They really need to get some couples therapy and learn how to talk to each other, as well as how to adjust to living in an apartment instead of a palace. They're former royalty, which makes things so much worse for them when it comes to living like most of the rest of us common folk. And it makes me wonder how many other fables have had trouble adjusting to life in the real world. And that gives us a little more insight into how the Crooked Man was able to get the power that he seems to have in the first place. Between the requirement for glamours that many fables seem to have trouble affording, and the difficulty adjusting to the real world, as well as the lack of support from the business office that is supposed to act as a government of sorts for them, it's no wonder someone like the Crooked Man was able to get a foothold. He took advantage of the desperation many fables had to get them under his thumb, and now we're having to deal with the fallout. As the conversation with Beauty and Beast wraps up, we have a decision to make. Beauty got her loan from a pawn shop known as the Lucky Pawn, and Beast was running deliveries for the Crooked Man out of a butcher shop known as the Cut Above. And we need to decide which place to visit first. This is the second time that we've heard about the Lucky Pawn, with Jack Horner mentioning that he worked there when we caught him trying to leave Crane's apartment. And as that seems to be the place where the money operation is for the Crooked Man, it makes the most sense to hit that up first. Before we leave though, Beauty and Beast hint that they are hoping that whatever Bigby does will make their problems go away. And I can't help but wonder just how bad things really are in Fabletown. They seem to be implying that Bigby should kill the Crooked Man off, but they deny that when pressed. They've gotten in so deep that their only hope of survival hinges on Bigby taking the Crooked Man down. And how many others are in the same boat? At the Lucky Pawn, we find Mr. Toad trying to pawn off Faith's donkey skin, with Jack refusing to even touch the thing. That conversation only lasts a moment before they see Bigby, and as Toad leaves, we find ourselves looking around for any sign of the Crooked Man's operation. We don't have to look too long, however, as the Jersey Devil and the Woodsman come strolling through the door as we're interrogating Jack about the Woodsman's missing axe. A fight ensues, with the Woodsman eventually helping Bigby to beat Jersey down, and we find out that the door to the Crooked Man's house is never in one place for very long, and that he's expecting Bigby to come looking. All in all, there isn't really too much in the way of new information outside of that, and after making at least a little amends with Woody, we head off to search the Cut Above for anything else. The butcher shop seems a little deserted when we arrive, and before long, Johann, the butcher, comes out to greet us. He tries to play it off as if nothing is going on, even trying to point us in the direction of the lucky pawn, but of course we know better. When pressed, Johann makes an excuse to go in the back, hitting what appears to be a panic button before disappearing through the door to the meat locker, and Bigby has to go looking for him. After meandering through a bunch of hanging meat that I was frankly surprised to see since the shop doesn't seem like it gets a lot of business, Bigby finds Johann in the back of the room, moving some crates around in front of a bay door that he says that he can't open. Of course, him not being able to open it doesn't stop us from opening it, and with a little brute force, we discover a back room that looks like it belongs more in Breaking Bad than The Wolf Among Us. The panic button that Johann hit apparently triggered a warning light, and whoever had been there when we arrived was long gone by the time we made it into the room. The room itself is full of ingredients for what appears to be spells and or potions, and there are restraints on the floor that are obviously used to keep people in line. There's also a large blackboard that has been wiped clean, and the picture of what the Crooked Man is up to is becoming more and more clear. A lot of what we've seen so far is pretty standard for a mafia-style setup. The Crooked Man has his hands in everything from sex work to spells, a stand-in for drugs I assume, and even loan sharking. These are all things traditionally used to gain power and control over people, using some of the most common vices and needs of the most desperate people in society. He uses the pudding and pie to control both the women working there, as well as the patrons who don't want anyone to know that they use the club's services. He uses the lucky pawn as a front for handing out loans that are impossible to pay back, trapping fables in a cycle of debt that will eventually land them in his service, either as a courier or working off their debt in the back of the cut above, which is actually a front for creating illegal spells. Fables either gravitate toward the Crooked Man's operations willingly, hoping to be in his good graces when he takes over, or they wind up in his debt because they were desperate when the business office didn't fulfill its obligation to the community. Crane was working behind the scenes for the Crooked Man, likely being blackmailed for his actions with the girls at the Pudding and Pie, and it's likely he intentionally held the business office back from helping people to increase the desperation in the community, allowing the Crooked Man to gain more power from an ever more desperate populace. One of the things found in the room is the coat of Ichabod Crane, with a wad of cash and a missing piece of the magic mirror hiding in its pockets. I had Bigby confiscate the cash, as for one thing, it was likely stolen from the business office anyway, and because Crane owes the community a lot in the wake of everything that he's done. Before we leave, Johann asks what he's supposed to do now, as allowing Bigby to discover the truth probably doesn't bode well for his chances of survival. He, like Jack and several others who were unwillingly dragged into the Crooked Man's service, is worried because the business office and the sheriff haven't exactly done a good job of protecting Fabletown over the years. But as we're trying to change that, I send him to Snow and offer protection. That may or may not wind up being the best move, as we still don't know for sure who all we can trust, but it's the best that we can do for the time being. It's easy to forget that many of the people we've been dealing with were roped into doing the things that they've done out of desperation. They were just regular people with no ill intentions who wound up in a bad situation, and they don't deserve to be punished so much as they deserve some help out of the circumstances they fell into. When we killed Dee, I argued that we needed to dismantle the organization from the inside and make sure it can't hurt anyone ever again. That means taking down the elements that intend harm while rescuing those who were just in the wrong place at the wrong time. Someone like Jack or Johann, who are simply trying to make ends meet, don't deserve the same treatment as someone like Mary or Jersey, who are actively working with the Crooked Man, helping him not out of fear, but out of a pleasure for harming others. And it's important to recognize that difference, as some people are what are known as sycophants, a willing participant in the harmful acts of the leader, while others are unwitting accomplices who only help under duress or threat of action against themselves or their loved ones. Knowing the motivations of everyone involved, especially in a cartel as big as what the Crooked Man is running, will help us figure out how best to handle everyone when we finally bring down the ringleader. The goal here should be to address the root causes of the Crooked Man rising to power while also taking down the people who actively helped him in that process, so we can prevent something like this from happening again. In the normal order of things, it might be impossible to totally prevent someone like him from rising to power in the future, but by taking steps to punish those involved appropriately and fixing the problems that led to so many people feeling like he was their only option in the first place, we can make it harder for the next threat to the community to emerge. Back at the business office, we find Snow arguing with Bluebeard once again, along with Toad looking for some compensation for whatever damages he feels that we may have caused him. While Buffkin works on getting the magic mirror fixed with the piece that we recovered, Snow asks Bigby to talk to Toad. Her goal is to have him and his son sent to the farm for not being glamored, but I took a different route by handing him the money that we confiscated from Crane and telling him to use it to get glamored. Whether he'll actually follow through with that or not is yet to be seen, but if we're going to make the business office a more reliable place for Fables to get help, we have to give them a chance to begin with. Once the mirror is fully repaired, we get the chance to see Crane being loaded into a taxi by Bloody Mary as she tells him to get on a plane and go to Paris to wait until the Crooked Man calls. Knowing her legend, it feels weird to be seeing Bloody Mary in a mirror like that, but it only lasts a few seconds as she realizes she is being watched and shuts the connection down. After that little sidetrack, the mirror shows the location of the Crooked Man's door, and Bigby hightails it over to Central Park to try to get to the portal before it changes locations again. Getting to the door and running through, Bigby finds himself in a gothic-looking hallway as a man on a crutch comes around the corner to greet him. The man, it turns out, is Tiny Tim of A Christmas Carol fame, though he's all grown up now and working for the Crooked Man as a sort of doorman, I guess? He says he only has one job, to lead Bigby down the hallway and into the Crooked Man's chamber. And if that's the case, I don't really want to ruin things for him by going off script. After leading us down the hall, Tim introduces Bigby to a room full of all of our favorite friends from the series, and we finally meet the Crooked Man face to face. We have a few options, but we don't actually get to find out how the meeting goes until the next episode. And while I hate cliffhangers, they have at least kept me excited and looking forward to what's coming. It's a feeling that I honestly haven't really had since my first playthrough of the first season of The Walking Dead, but it's one that will unfortunately be hard to find again, as the next episode is also the season finale. I have mixed feelings about that, as I've really been enjoying this story, but all good things have to come to an end, I suppose. Where do you think the story is going at this point? Did you go to the butcher shop or the pawn shop first? How did you treat Tim? Did you take the money from Ichabod's pocket and give it to Toad? Let me know down in the comments below. Just keep it spoiler free for now, in case that there's anyone out there who's playing along who doesn't know what's coming. If you liked the video, hit the thumbs up button and make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss any of the great breakdowns that we have coming in the next few months. You can sign up on Patreon or as a channel member here on YouTube for awesome perks like getting your name on the screen, early access, behind the scenes, and exclusive videos that you can't get anywhere else. That's all I've got for now. I want to thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.